Golden State Media Concepts Technology Podcast covers everything tech. The hottest mobile phones, tablets, games. We review it, rate it, test it. Whether you're Microsoft or Apple, Android or iPhone, we'll give it to you again and again, black and white. The Golden State Media Concepts Technology Podcast.
Welcome to the Golden State Media Concepts Best of Technology 2016. Right here, we're going to bring you the best of technology from the last year. So stick around.
Now, when we're talking about apps, they're basically small applications on your cell phone, as you probably all obviously know, but I figured I'd give you a little tip. Now, my number one favorite app on iOS is called iNet. Pretty much it's more or less a network admin tool. It allows you to scan the network to see who's on it. It allows you to check out their MAC address, their IP address. This is the closest you're going to get to a full suite of admin apps for iOS. The only thing that would improve it is if you actually had a way to scan Wi-Fi to see what network is on what channel.
Right.
This is great. I mean, I actually use it for my personal network, my parents' networks, and my friends' network to just say, for example, a friend decides something's wrong with his computer, so I got to find out a collision detection on IP. So I can scan that and say, okay, computer A and computer B have competing IP addresses.
That's awesome.
It works great. I mean, I literally use it all the time. I've done it's actually one of my favorite things is going on friends' networks and scanning everything and going, hey, do you know your kid's on the computer? It's like, what? How do you tell? Oh, it's right here.
Yeah.
You can also do ping, and if you're remotely a network admin and have iOS, you got to check it out. It's an absolutely amazing app. And the other one I use, not as much, but it's important to me, is called File Browser. Now, this is one of the few apps I've found in iOS that actually lets me view a network from a phone. Now, I use this in conjunction with iNet, so pretty much what I'll do is I'll scan it, I'll find the main network IP, I'll type that in the file browser, and then I can view the computers or whatnot. And it works really well for, say, NAS drives, remote computers, shared files. I'm a big time fan of old time radio, like Tales of the Texas Rangers, Dragnet, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so on my router specifically, I have a portable hard drive detected to it. So this allows me to log into that and then play it, using my headphone jack or use Chromecast audio type of thing.
That's cool.
And the other one, and this is something, my next app is everybody should have. I don't care if you're a geek or not. You have to have Speed Test. What Speed Test basically does is it tests the speed of your internet connection. If it's a slow connection, this is what you need. It's number one in my opinion.
Oh, yeah. I've used Speed Test before.
And it's speedtest.net is the actual website, and there's a handful of out there. Comcast has their own version. Matter of fact, they're all these apps are built by the same company. Mm-hmm. So what about you? Do you have any favorite utilities out there that you use?
Well, one of the things you have to do when you get an Android is you have to download a flashlight app.
So it doesn't have it built in like iOS.
I think maybe some of the better models do, but every Android phone that I've ever owned, I needed to download a flashlight app because it didn't come with one.
Does this use the actual flash for the camera, or is this just making a white bright screen?
No, it uses the flashlight on the camera. It's just that they don't have like a utility or an app built into the phone for that. And sometimes too, I've owned a couple Androids where they didn't have, so they have the camera and everything set up, but they don't actually have an app on your phone for the camera. You have to download a camera app in order to use your camera, which is it's kind of weird. It's a lot more with I've had that problem with LG, and I've had that problem with some of the more lower end Androids.
True. You're not going to get that with Samsung because they include random things like, how's your golf swing?
Yeah, Samsung has a lot of apps that
bloatware.
Yeah. Yeah.
If anybody out there doesn't know what bloatware is, basically it's unneeded, unwanted, or unused apps on your phone that you could never get rid of, or it would take a ridiculous amount of time to get rid of it.
Samsung is notorious for that. I owned a Samsung Galaxy Victory back when those first came out, and it came with so many apps that I just didn't need. I had to get rid of them all. Another app that I like is it's called Sandbox, and it's basically just a little toy that I have on my computer. It is just what it sounds like. It's a sandbox. You have all these little things. You can draw bricks in there, and you can put in sand and water and plants. And
So it's kind of like a Zen garden for your phone.
Except it has nitroglycerin, gunpowder, fireworks. So I like to build things and blow them up.
After the show, we're going to have to see if that's available for my phone.
Yeah, it's on the Google Play store. So I don't know if it works for iOS, but I know it works for Android, and I'll watch TV and just play with that.
That's awesome. I actually, it's a little bit of a tangent, but there's a Windows program called BlueStacks. Mm-hmm. It allows you to use Android apps on your Windows computer, and I'm going to be doing that when I get home today.
Yeah, that sounds pretty cool. My favorite app of all time is, though, because I am a part of the PC Master Race and I use Steam for all of my gaming, I love the Steam app. And I know a lot of people are kind of getting mad that Steam has started to do this thing where you have to have Steam on your phone in order to, or, it'll send you email messages to make sure that what you're doing in your, items list is legit, because you can sell and buy items from the store and stuff like that on Steam.
Now, are you selling the games you buy?
No, it's trading cards. Steam
Okay.
implemented trading cards like a while ago. Backgrounds for your Steam.
Interesting.
Little emoticons.
Does this work as a second factor authenticator?
Yes. That is exactly what it is.
If anybody out there doesn't know what the second factor is, pretty much say if you have Gmail and you log into your Gmail, what it does is it would send a message to your phone saying, somebody's trying to log in. Is it you? You hit yes, and then it would send like a number, like,
Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4, ABC, and you type that in, and it would allow you access to your Gmail account. Basically, it's a way to make sure that it's you and not some script kiddie or just bored person logging into your personal email account.
And I know a lot of people are kind of like upset with that kind of thing, but it is very important for Steam because I have my credit card information on there because you're buying games. People can go into your marketplace and start buying skins for weapons for games and stuff like that without your say so, and it can really screw you up. And Steam does a really good job about security.
I would, if you don't mind, just 1 second, I would add, if you have a bank, I would say do second factor. If you have Xbox Live, PlayStation, I recommend doing it. Anything to meet you that's mission critical, look at doing it. Now, granted, it is annoying, but I promise you that it will save you, and it's worth it for a little bit of annoyance to make sure that you don't lose your account.
Thank you for listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Best of Technology podcast. We're coming up on a break, but when we get back, there will be more technology.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch, whatever it may be.
So we're going to start off the show today, talk about more anti-drone technology. I got into it a little bit last week. And the most interesting one I've found is U.S. government's Federal Aviation Administration is trying a new British company's technology, what they're calling it the freeze ray. Now, I'm not talking like, the guy in the X-Men who physically just freezes stuff, casts out some sort of magic power that creates ice crystals. According to this, what it does is it uses a thermal imaging camera that will allow to detect small drones and other aircraft. I'm assuming what it does is, being a thermal image, everything creates heat. So it finds it, even a small signal, so it's got to be a pretty good thermal imaging camera. Then according to this, what it does is it actually sends out a signal that blankets that general area with, I'm assuming, some sort of white noise and physically jams it from the controller. Now, some drones, from what I've read, will actually just stay there. I'm assuming, depending how smart the drone is, might actually land. I have access to an EJI Phantom 3, so I'm pretty sure what that one's default does when it can't detect anything. I'm pretty sure it either goes back to home if you set a marker where home is and lands. Maybe it'll drop out of the sky. Now, the interesting thing is in a statement released by Graham Bell, managing director of Chess Dynamics, said a counter-drone is now a global issue, an increasing concern for military, government, and homeland security across every continent. So apparently military people are having big issues now with civilians having drones. I mean, it makes sense. Anybody can get them. I mean, you can build them. And they range in price anywhere between like $100 and up. I know a guy who builds them. I mean, from what I've read and from seen, it's not all that complicated to do. So what do you think? Do you think there should be more of this? Do you think drones should have like a whitelist of where to fly? I'm pretty sure that was something the government was talking about, is having on-built maps built into each drone saying, okay, you can't go here and stop it. They say it's expected that more aircraft will be used, more UAVs or UASs or whatever it actually stands for, will be used for malicious intent. I don't know about that, but I'm actually for stopping drones at airports and other that. I mentioned how in the King Fire there are people flying their drones, and there's a couple of interesting things. I mean, besides this, there's a Japanese or Chinese company that uses one drone that actually shoots out a net and captures the drone. So I'm assuming the drone crashes, which is more likely, or the drone carries it to the ground. Another interesting one is a Dutch police have been training eagles to snatch enemy drones. And they're probably coming up with what's probably the best low-cost solution. I mean, eagles and owls and other birds of prey have been used for years in airports to scare away other birds. And what it is a lot of these bigger predators, like hawks and eagles, for example, have a pretty wide territory. And since they're the masters of the sky, pretty much no smaller birds are going to go in their area. They're going to get eaten, honestly. So this is one of the better solutions I've heard. Now the question is, will the eagle or hawk or owl or whatever they're going to use, will they get hurt? Now my assumption would be, depending on the type of drone, probably not. And their talons have enough crushing force. I guarantee between their wing power and their talons, they'll be able to ground the thing. Now, according to this, the keeper will release, in this case, on the Dutch, it's a white-tailed eagle, glides straight towards the drone, clutches it in her talons, and drags it to the ground. And they're rewarded with a piece of meat. So what do you think? Is this something bad? I know there's got to be some PETA people that are upset about this. How would you stop drones? I like the net solution. I like the eagle solution. I don't know how well I think about using that freeze ray. I mean, how directional is that beam? Now, my question is, the beam just go straight towards it? Will it completely stop it? Will it hurt other airport stuff? And, of course, this is stuff they're going to test, because the FAA, I don't know if you guys know much about it, they test everything. I mean, they're not going to do anything in an airport that's going to hurt you, me, or even them. So what do you think? Is it something interesting? I know there's been a bunch of other stuff. I know there's jokingly called, for shotguns, called drone loads. And that's honestly a solution to stop it. How would you do it? Is there some way that you would stop a drone? I'd love to know.
This has been the Golden State Media Concepts Best of Technology podcast. Please stick around for more technology. Thank you for listening.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA Podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Now, this is an interesting thing we're going to talk about right now. What it is, it's China's solution to the traffic problem. Now, if anybody don't know about it, China has a lot of people. You get a lot of people, you get a lot of cars. Now, China has pretty good mass transportation, but it still doesn't beat having your own personal car. Having your own conveyance just makes life easier instead of having to take public transportation, especially if you're going, for, say, Okay, so I live in Northern California. So say if I was going from Sacramento, California to San Francisco. Now, that's a 3-hour drive. Now, public transportation, it's a little bit longer because they have to make stops, and you're limited to where the public transportation goes. I take my car, I can go anywhere in San Francisco, so that's really kind of why I like having my own car. Now, this interesting bus, what it does is it actually straddles the road. So if you take a look at the video, it should be in the show notes. What it is, it's a giant bus that has 2 pylons on either side. And what it does is that's the driving wheels. And pretty much the way it looks is that basically cars can travel right underneath it. Now, I see some definitely problems with some potential things like traffic accidents, for example. I can see maybe something getting under the wheels. Now, I don't completely know how the technology works. There hasn't been a lot released from what I've seen and read. Now, the thing is extra wide. It carries up to 1,400 passengers. It's built tall so for cars and vehicles can go under it. The top speed is 40 miles an hour, which I think that's, I don't know. What do you think? I mean, I think that's a pretty good speed for a city bus. I don't know if something like this could actually go any faster just because it might turn it into a giant sail. I mean, so that's the one thing I'm wondering about is if this thing goes 60 miles an hour, the way it's designed, it could easily act as a wing and just be picked off straight off the road. So I think 40 miles an hour is pretty good. I also don't know how fast traffic goes. So in theory, this thing would be going faster than the flow of traffic, definitely during rush hour. I don't know. I would totally, if I was in China, I would give it a try. It's an amazing piece of engineering marvel. So what do you think? I'm a really big fan of just vehicles in general, of that technology, but I'm interested in something like that because this is an interesting solution to a giant traffic problem. And I think this would be something that could possibly be used in places with massive problems, like areas of Los Angeles, maybe areas of New York. I don't generally think New York, because from what I've seen in New York, it's a little tighter and closer together. Los Angeles, I definitely think this could be a solution to some of the issues. I don't know if you could take it on the 5, for example, or the 101, but definitely something that you could use in areas. You know, you're not impeding the flow of traffic with a giant bus or a train. You're just going above traffic without really having like the elevated track, for example. The 40 miles an hour, I don't know, like I said, I don't know if that's a good thing. Is that a bad thing? I don't know if this thing could go any faster because it's pretty aerodynamic, so I'm kind of wondering if it would act as a giant wing and just fly off. What do you think? Is this something you'd be interested in? I want you to take a look at the show notes and click on it and tell me what you think. The good, the bad, the ugly. I'd love to know what you, my audience, thinks about it. I think we're going to switch off to a little bit of a change. TechCrunch is reporting on a robot kit called Zero. Now, Zero is a robotics kit for children. It comes with a few motors and it comes with a few motors and is controlled by a smartphone. Now, the kit comes with 4 wireless motors, enough pieces to build a small car, and it lets you build cars, cardboard robots, articulated animals, and more. Now, what this is one of the initiatives to get kids into programming and technology more, and probably adults like me who thinks this is a neat piece of kit. Now, there's other things you can get for it, like a Creative bundle that receives cardboard layouts with things you can build with Zero. It also comes with more controlling motors, but it's controlled by a Wi-Fi, and it looks like from what I've been reading is it's controlled by your cell phone. So it'd be like that BB-8 toy that came out for the new Star Wars Force Awakens. So what do you think? I mean, personally, I think this is a neat idea. Matter of fact, I'd get this for my kids. I kind of want this for me because this looks like something I could use to play around with. Maybe torment a dog, a family friend. I mean, this is one of the very few things that I've been reading about. Lego came out with Mindstorm and other things, and there are a little bit things here and there for kids to kind of get them into programming. I know originally that's what a lot of people were hoping for the Raspberry Pi that I talked about last week. And so this looks like it'd probably be a little easier. From what I saw, it doesn't look like there's a whole lot of programming. And if there is programming, I guarantee they did it in a way that kids can actually use it. Because I don't think, at least initially, I don't know if you really want any heavy-duty programming for kids. This is something that I'm definitely interested in. I don't know a whole lot of kids right now that would actually be interested in it. I don't know the actual price of it yet. But I'm curious to see, is this something you would get for your kids? Or is this something you would get for yourself? Well, what do you think? I mean, I'm really into tech. Like I said before, when it comes to technology, I'm not completely civilians, but this is something that I'm really interested in seeing how it works. Now, see, the coolest thing, a lot of this technology is just not for kids. I mean, this is definitely built for kids, because if you actually take a look at it, it's totally kid-oriented. But this is something that I think adults, especially if they're into stuff like this, would buy for themselves and make and have fun with. Definitely, if you're one of these guys who like modding things, is a perfect platform to make something. Welcome back from the break. So this is the thing I'm really interested in, is cell phone apps and companies and everything in between having real world implications. And what I mean is, the first one is using your phone to order food. Now, there's multiple restaurants that let you have apps to do this. Like, for example, one of my favorite restaurants is Chick-fil-A. Come on, I love a good chicken sandwich. You've got to try it. They're the bomb. And I promise they haven't paid for this. So what it is, Chick-fil-A will let you order food, and they'll even let you skip the line. Now, the option isn't available at every restaurant, but the app will show you if your closest restaurant is on that list. Another one is Taco Bell. So Taco Bell will let you schedule a pickup for any time, save cards to use for payment, customize items on the menu, view nutritional information. Sidebar, the nutritional information, I think if your company has an app, you should have that. Now, personally, the nutritional information, I don't really pay attention to that all that much. But if you have an app, everybody should have that, because honestly, if it's something you're into and you need, I think that's really important. You will find the nearest building. If you do make an order, you can arrange to pick up in store via the drive-thru. That's cool. Another one is almost everybody's favorite burrito joint, Chipotle. And so maybe you want a little bit more than Taco Bell. Chipotle offers an app. You can browse a menu, customize your order, pay using a credit card or gift card, and skip the line. Now, most of the ones for restaurants pretty much order and pick up. You can skip the line using air quotes. Another one is Subway, one of everybody's favorite healthy alternative. So according to this is literally, I'll just read this verbatim. Walking through the Subway line is akin to taking a trip to a salad bar, but if you know what kind of bread, cheese, meat, and veggies you want, you can order ahead of using the official mobile app. Pay without entering the store, then you will go to inside to get your food. Now, this is pretty much every restaurant that I've seen, and I've looked up a couple apps here besides the ones that are on the list. They all pretty much let you do the same thing. View the menu, maybe the nutritional thing, give you the location of the closest restaurant that'll use the app, and order food. I love the idea of just being able to, say I'm at my house and I want Taco Bell, hitting a couple of buttons, drive the Taco Bell, pick up my food, and, go. I think it's perfect for lunch. And that's what I've used the Chipotle one actually for is, say if you got a 30-minute lunch and you got to book it because during that lunch you've got to read notes for your meeting, order the food before, at work, get there, go back to work, and then start reading notes. I just think it's a pretty amazing thing, honestly. And the next one is Lyft or Uber. Now, if you don't know what they are, Lyft or Uber are pretty much, they're taxis. But what it is, it's everyday people who go through a background check. Lyft and Uber both do that. And pretty much what it is you call them, they're a personal taxi. They're using their vehicle to pick you up to take you in your destination. They're called ride sharing. Now, the ride sharing services, Uber and Lyft, both make it easy to grab a ride with your phone. Get where you're going in minutes, and automatically pay for the trip without needing cash or cards on hand. Now, there's a caveat to Lyft or Uber. What they do is, if it's during high traffic times, for example, or times that everybody's really calling Uber or Lyft, they raise the prices. Now, if I remember correctly, they call it demand pricing. So sometimes Uber is cheap. Sometimes Lyft or Uber can be expensive. So mileage may vary on that. That is just something I want you to know. Or call it a regular taxis. Now, some of the major cities like New York, Los Angeles, and I think Chicago, their cab companies use I think it's either a third-party app of their own. I couldn't find a quick link that explained it. So basically what it is you say, okay, say if you're on the corner of like 5th Street and 6th Street or something. I don't know if any of those streets actually exist. So what it's there. You call it, they come, pick you up, tracks your mileage and all that. I really like this.
The Golden State Media Concepts Best of Science Fiction Podcast 2016. If you like what you heard, you can find us on Stitcher, SoundCloud, iTunes, and GoldenStateMediaConcepts.com. Thank you for listening.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Technology Podcast. part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. From movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.